Welcome to Study Station. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to review the basics of numbers, and we're going to be looking at the overview of fractions and mixed numbers. In this video, you will be learning how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions, even though this is something that you should have learned in primary and secondary school. If you live in the UK, this is also part of the Maths Edexcel GCSE new GCSE system 9 to 1. I hope this helps you, and let's get started. So, as I said, you're going to be learning how to multiply, add, subtract, and divide fractions, and at the same time you're also going to be looking at mixed numbers as well, which contains a fraction part and a whole number part. So I think we should just get straight into it. So the first question actually involves adding two fractions together. Over here we have 1/4 plus 3/8. So I want you to pause the video and try this out right now if you can do it. 1/4 plus 3/8. So pause the video and I will show you guys how to work it out after you have, open the video again. So the way you solve this is you can see over here that there is actually two different denominators, and when there are two different denominators you have to actually make the denominator the same. So the numerator is obviously the top number and the denominator is the bottom number. So since the denominators are not the same, the way we actually make the denominators the same is actually by trying to find the same factor, a number that actually goes into both 4 and 8. So obviously a factor that goes into both, or number that goes both into 4 and 8 is obviously 8 itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to obviously multiply. So what multiplies to make 8? Obviously it's 4 times 2 is equals to 8, and we're going to have to do the exact same thing for the top number, the numerator as well. So if we do 4 times 2 is equals to 8, we're going to have to multiply to the top number, so we're going to have to do 1 times 2. So I'm just going to show you guys over here. So when you do 4 times 2, we're making it 8 to make it the same denominator. And then when we do 1 times 2 is going to be 2. So therefore you will get 2/8. And then since the denominator is 8 over here already, we don't have to change this. It's going to be 3/8, like so. So the answer overall is going to be 5/8. And obviously, if you could have simplified this further, you should obviously simplify it. But since 5/8 is a simplified version, there is nothing else to do. So that is the final answer, 5/8. The next question is subtracting fractions, and this involves two fractions that are getting subtracted. So 2/3 minus 1/6, okay? So again, I want you to pause the video and try it out. It's again using the same principle that we used last time. But yeah, just try to pause the video and work it out, and then after I will show you guys how to work it. So in this question, what we want to do is, again, we want the denominator to be the same because over here the bottom number is not the same. We're going to have to try to find a number that goes into both 3 and 6. 3 and 6 both goes into that number. And obviously we can see that 6 is the the number that has a factor of 3 and 6. So again, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make both of the denominators the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write down 6 in the bottom of both of these, and then you're going to have to basically multiply 3 with something to make it into 6, and whatever number you get that you're multiplying, you're going to have to multiply the top number as well. So for example, in this question, 2/3, we're doing 3 times 2 to make it into 6. So I'm just going to draw it for you guys over here. So we have 3 times 2. So 3 times 2 to make it into 6. And then in the top, we also have to do the same thing. So we're going to have to again times it by 2. Alright, so again, just times it by 2, and this will give us 4. So we have 4/6, and then we're going to have 1/6 over there. So what's 4/6 minus 1/6? It's going to be 3/6. And over here we have a question. Now you guys actually might think that this is the final answer, but actually it's not. As I said in the previous question, if the answer is not in a simplified version, we have to simplify it. So over here we have 3/6, so we're going to have to make it into a half because that is a simplified version. Okay, so you're going to have to try to find as less as possible. Like you want a number that goes both into 3 and 6, so 3 and 6, and as you can see, both of them will go, 3 go into both of them, so we make it into a half. So that's the final answer of this question. The next question is involving multiplying fractions. So over here we have 5/6 times 2/3. Again, I want you to go on and pause this video and try it out yourself, and then I'll show you guys how to work it out. So in this question, what we want to do is, now, when you multiply fractions, you actually don't have to have the same denominator, which is absolutely fantastic. All we have to do is we have to multiply the numerators together and we have to multiply the denominators together, and we basically get our final answer. That's exactly how easy it is. Like, we don't even have to go through trying to make the denominator the common number, and we don't have to do all that stuff. We just multiply the top number and multiply the bottom numbers together. So 5 times 2 is 10, and 6 times 3 is 18. Alright, so it's going to be 10/18. Now again, we have to try to find a number that goes both into 10 and 18. So, again, we can see that the answer is definitely going to be 2, because like 3 doesn't, so 1 goes into it, 2 goes into it, 3 doesn't go into both of them. So we know that the highest common factor is obviously 2. So we're going to have to divide both of them by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. So 5/9 it is, and that's the answer, because you don't have any other number, any other factor that goes into both 5 and 9, okay? So yeah, that's basically the answer, 5/9, and that's exactly how easy it is to multiply fractions. The next question is actually more of a complicated question, because this involves dividing fractions, but at the same time also trying to go with mixed numbers as well. So in this question, we actually have a mixed number, so 2 and 2/3. A mixed number is when there is a whole number and a fraction, and they're both like combined together. So we have a mixed number, and we're also dividing 2 fractions together. So the way you go with answering this is that when there is a divide symbol, so basically when you're dividing 2 fractions, what you have to do is you have to keep this first fraction the same. You have to make the divide symbol into a times, and you have to flip the second fraction. So you keep it the same, you change it, and then you flip it, okay? So now I'm going to go on and basically do this for you guys. So what you want to do is you want to start off with 2 and 2/3. You're going to have it exactly the same, even if it was a normal fraction, like just 2/3 and without the 2, you still have kept this the same. So 2 and 2/3, and you want to make the divide symbol into a times or multiplying symbol. And then we have the half that's going to turn into 2/1. Okay, 2/1. So that's how it should look like, 2 2/3 times 2 over 1. Now, if you're really clever, you might see that 2 over 1 is exactly the same as 2, because 2 divided by 1 is 2. So therefore, what we're really looking at is 2 2/3 times 2 times 2 is not really anything. It doesn't have to have that divide by 1. So now what you want to do is you actually have to go on and get this huge big mixed number. You just get it out of the way, and the way you do that is you want to go on and you want to actually make this mixed number into a fraction, and it's going to be an improper fraction, which means it's going to have a bigger numerator than the denominator. So the way you make it into a normal fraction is you actually do 3 times 2, which is going to be 6. And then the top number is basically remainder. So you do 3 times 2, which is 6, and the 6 plus 2, which is 8. And the denominator is going to be the denominator in this mixed fraction, which is 3. So again, what you want to do is you want to make the denominator, multiply it with a big number, and then you add whatever answer you get, you just add the numerator on the top. So 3 times 2 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 8, and it's going to be 8 over 3, okay, and then times 2. Now obviously you can just simply just put 2 because you know it's the same thing, but personally I like putting 2 over 1 because I like to have both the numerator and the denominator for my fractions. So then again, the last step really for this is to just go on and you know the last step in this process is to just like multiply them, and then all you have to do is the simplifying and you know all that stuff. So what you have to do over here is again you just treat it like a normal multiplying fraction. So you do 8 times 2, which is 16, and 3 times 1 and 16. Wait a second, I'm just going to delete that. So we have 16, and 3 times 1 is 3. So that's basically about it, 16 over 3. But when you're in the exam, you can't leave the final answer as an improper fraction. So you're going to have to turn it back into a mixed fraction. So the way you do that is you basically have to try to see how many times 3 goes into 16, okay? So we can see that if we count the 3 times table, which is really easy, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and that's 5 times, so 3 times 5 is 15, and after that is 18, so obviously 18 goes over 16, so we have to do it up to 5 times. You make that your big number in your mixed number, the big whole number, and then you have to write the fraction, and the top number of the fraction is going to be the remainder. So 3 times 5 is 15, and you have to add 1 to make it 16, so 1 is going to be your numerator. And last of all, we also have you know our bottom number, which is going to be 3. So the answer is 5 1/3, and you know that's just the final answer. So just to summarize for this video, the overview was that we actually learnt a lot of things in this video. The first one is to know which is the numerator and which is the denominator in a fraction. So the numerator is the top number in the fraction and the denominator is the bottom number. And when we also learned how to add, subtract, multiply and divide fractions. So when we are adding fractions, we always have to make sure that when we're adding and subtracting fractions, actually we have to always make sure the denominator is the same, and we have to you know do that. And when we're multiplying fractions, it does not have to be the same, and when we divide fractions, we obviously have to change it into a multiplying. And also you know we have to know how to solve questions involving mixed numbers, but there's also going to be a part 2 of that for you guys. And that's just basically everything that I wanted to share with you guys. Thumbs up this video and subscribe down below and get this video to at least 10 likes, and I hope to see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye.